Welcome to Your Iconic Image. If you want to take control of your image and be a power player in your space, then this is the show for you. Here we will arm you with tools and information to help you grow your brand on purpose. I'm your host, Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Now let's dive into today's episode. Meredith Liepelt has guided experts to become recognized authorities by securing media spots, speaking engagements, and opportunities to showcase their expertise in front of potential clients and influencers. Welcome, Meredith.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So talk to us about, because you have helped many people become, make a name for themselves in their industries. What part does courage play in that?
It plays a really big part, to be honest with you, because when we as personal brands are putting ourselves out there, it is very vulnerable, right? Because there's risk to that. We are putting ourselves out there saying, here's my expertise. Here's who I am inside my expertise. Here's how I'm showing up. Who likes me? Right?
And hoping somebody does.
Hoping somebody does. Right. And somebody will, that's the whole thing about being courageous in the visibility piece, because you have to be, the word authentic is so overused, but you have to be yourself as you go out there, because when you try to be somebody else, that just doesn't work. So being secure in who you are and knowing who you are so that you can put yourself out there in a real genuine way, really, that's how you will resonate with your people.
So how do we determine how to align what our intentions are with that?
Right. So it's about becoming clear on what are your intentions? Like, who do you want? Is always everything with marketing starts with who do you want to help? What are their issues? What are they struggling with? And then you crisscross that with who are you? How can you help them? What is your message? And once you get all of that together, and that's kind of like the marketing and branding piece, which you know a lot about, right? Mm-hmm. Then you can look at, okay, now how do I want to show up out there? How do I want to show up visually? How do I want to show up in writing? How do I want to show up maybe in video? How do I want to show up in person? How do I want to show up in all these different ways? What does my website look like? Like all these things tell a story about who you are, mm-hmm. and being courageous in staking your claim and saying, this is who I am. This is what I believe. These are my values. This is my message and this is who I can help. Are you ready? And really asking people, are you ready? Let's go.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to underscore too, that when you're asking how you want to show up, it's not that you're showing up differently on different platforms. It's because your message still has to be the same. Because a confused mind buys nothing, and people need to understand what you do, how you do it, and who you do it for clearly.
Absolutely. And when you go through these, the branding process of like, who am I? What do I stand for? And all of that, then you show up the same on every platform. You show up the same in person as you do online. I mean, we've probably all had those experiences where we either saw someone or met someone first online and then we meet them in person and there's a disconnect, or vice versa. And there's a disconnect. You just want to make sure that, that you're being real out there, in everything that you are. You don't have to be perfect, because don't ever strive to be perfect, because that'll stop you in your tracks, right? Just strive to be your real self and help people in the way that you are uniquely positioned to help.
Mm. So when we're putting forth our efforts to be visible and gain different platforms, visibility on different platforms, how do we prioritize what we do and which platforms to go after?
That's such a great question, because, well-intentioned people will say, you have to do this particular thing. You've got to blog because I had great experience over here in blogging. And that's great for them. And I don't think that anyone really means malice. I think they mean to do good. But the truth is, you have to look at your own innate strengths. What do you naturally gravitate toward, right? So say, for example, you naturally gravitate toward writing. Okay. Maybe that's something that you need to pursue, because and writing can take all kinds of forms. So say, for example, you like long form writing. You like to write, 2,000 word articles, or you might want to write a book. Or conversely, you like to write very short, pithy, powerful things like Seth Godin, for example, right? Mm-hmm. Very, very powerful. How do you want to show up in writing? What is natural to you? Um, if you're like, oh, I'm not a writer, I definitely am a talker. Okay, well, how could that show up? Maybe you do a podcast like you're doing. And maybe even within that podcast, how are you going to do it in your way? Like for me, for example, um, I have recently, in this past year, started to do Facebook Lives, and I kind of went into it kicking and screaming, right? Because I knew that if I'm just sitting here talking to a camera, like I don't excel in that way. But
Mhm.
I've done it, and I'm continuing to do it, and I am getting better. But I tried it because I've gotten some other systems in place, and it was time to try something else. So I'm being courageous. I'm taking some of my own medicine, trying something new, and realizing, okay, I'm not great at just talking to somebody. So I'm better at having a guest on, or being a guest on someone else's show, or, like something like that. And then at the same time, I'm working on getting better at just me being on camera.
Mhm.
So, like how do you want to show up? And do you show up visually? Like, are you more of a design person, or do you want to take lots of lifestyle pictures of yourself and go out there in those ways? You just have to look at what is natural and comfortable for you, and then you go in those ways.
So what I'm hearing from you really is we lean into our strengths first. And then, but once we have those, the courageous part seems to come in pushing those boundaries and trying new things because we actually might like them and we might be actually good at them.
Right, exactly. And yes, that's where the courage part comes in, because you can stay in your comfort zone, which there's times to stay in our comfort zone. And there are times to go out into our courage zone. Like when we are on a growth path and we know like it's time to up level, and I need to do some things because growth is not comfortable. I need to do some things to kind of stretch my own self, stretch my boundaries, and all those kinds of things. You go out there and you operate in your courage zone, and you learn some lessons along the way. This is why we don't try for perfection. We try for just better than yesterday.
Yeah, I remember hearing someone say, "You don't try for perfect, you try for real,"
Oh,
and
yes.
because we relate to real.
Yes, absolutely. We relate to that realness, which is why, you can smell a fake a mile away.
Mhm. So, what are the best media outlets in your opinion? Are there a best, or
Um,
again, it depends on who you are and what your strengths are?
that's I would say it really depends. So for some people they really want to go on television, because that is a very fast way to become known as an expert. So they want the fastest path, and they're very good at going on TV, or they're very good at learning how to go on TV. TV is a really great way to be known as an expert. Being quoted in articles in your industry is fantastic as well, because then because who are they quoting? They're quoting an expert about what they do. So I'll tell you a quick story about one of my clients who, years ago, she called me and she said, she had a high end service that she offered. And she said, I was talking to this prospect, and she was really wanting to do the service, but she was nervous about the price. And she said she was going to go home and research it. So she went home and she researched it. She plugged in the name of the service, and an article came up that my client was quoted in. And so she said, well, there we have it. You're clearly the expert. So I'm going to go with you. And she signed up for the service. And that quote actually was from an article that was probably 2 or 3 years old at that point. So, like you don't know like where this media is going to come in handy.
Mhm.
Certainly media helps to have, it's that third party credibility that you can have on your website. You've got the as seen in logos and, all that kind of thing. Links to you on TV, links to your articles, things like that. That's all great. And you just never know how it's going to be useful in the future, but it's there for you forever.
Let's say somebody wanted to be on TV. Is that a leap that you can take from the get-go, or do you need to have other things in place in order to make that leap? Because it is visible, so
It,
visible.
it is very visible. I would say yes. It's available from the get go. If you are truly an expert and you have some value to bring to the audience, you can do it from kind of like almost day one out of the gate. Now they do want to see television producers. They want to see you on camera. So just take your phone, do a little, video of you talking really about anything in your expertise. It doesn't even have to be about what you're pitching. They just want to see your energy. Can you put a sentence together? All those kinds of things. But then what you do is for television, they want to bring value to their audience, of course. So how can you bring a demonstration, something visual, perhaps? TV is a visual medium. Mm-hmm. What can you bring in there? What can you demonstrate? What actionable tips can you bring to the audience? You don't even have to have a book or anything like that, but if you have some value and you can show something or demonstrate something or interact somehow with the anchors, that's what they're looking for.
Mm. Does it help to start local?
Yes, definitely. Start local, because sometimes people will come to me and they'll say, I want to be on Steve Harvey, or I want to be on the Ellen Show. And fantastic. Let's put a pin in that, because what they also tell me is they've never been on television before.
Yeah.
And, so those are not your first step. I've never heard a producer of a national show say, sure, like just anyone can come on. Like they're always saying, can I see your local media clips? So start locally. So your path to going on national television, if that's your goal, is to go on local television. Even if your business is international, go on your local TV stations. And start there, because media begets media. And when you have these assets, then you're positioned to say in your pitch to the national, producers, here's a clip of me on my local TV station, or here's my sizzle reel. You go on a couple different shows, you get quoted in a couple things, you get a little video of you, speaking on stage, or some lifestyle photos. You can create a sizzle reel that looks really, really great. And showcases your expertise. And then you look the part that you really are. You are the expert that you are.
So what goes into a media kit?
Oh, yes. Okay. So a media kit is important, because, and you can just have this on your website. You can have it like yoururl.com/media or media kit, whatever you want to say. But it's important to be ready for media, because imagine you go out and you meet a producer or you meet a journalist as you're networking. We'll all be out meeting people soon, or you meet somebody online and they say to you, what do you like to talk about? Or they're writing an article on you and they email you and they say, can you send me your headshot? And you're like, oh, I'll get it to you when I'm back in the office, or I'll get it to you tomorrow, or I have to find it on my computer. But if it's in your media kit online, you just literally say, it's myurl.com/media. Just go there. My bio's there, my headshot's there, my lifestyle photos are there. I've got some sample interview questions. I've got some video there of me speaking, if you want to use that, like in your background for a TV show, all that kind of stuff. Like, you are ready. You're showing them that you really are the expert that you say you are. You're ready for media, and it shows. And one of the benefits to that is not only just, being ready for that particular media coverage, but when they see you're ready, they're going to remember you, because most people are not ready.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with someone again last week, and they said, I can't believe it. These people, they're amazing at what they do, but they're not ready to talk to me. And then I'm having to wait, and I'm getting this email and then that email, and I'm getting things in piecemeal. So when you're ready, you will definitely stand out.
And how often should that information or those images or those clips or anything be updated?
You should have a current headshot, and current, this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be honest with you, I haven't been the best at current headshots, but I would say the headshot has to look like you. Like, if it's you from 5 years ago, it's time to update that headshot. And lifestyle photos, just make sure that they reflect who you are currently. And same with videos, just make sure that, because we as businesses, our businesses morph and change. So as your message morphs and changes, just go in and update that website. You'll probably want to update with different questions. Maybe your bio changes a little bit. If your hairstyle drastically changes, get a new headshot and showcase your new amazing self, because then you can also go out there and just share that with people. Hey, here's my new haircut. Here's my new headshot. What do you guys think? It's a point of staying current with people.
Agreed. And I know in my experience, we as women need to update generally more often than men do. Men can squeak it out a little bit longer, but as women, it needs to be at least every other year, if not every year.
Okay, I was going to ask you, what's your advice on that? Every year, every other year?
Yeah, generally speaking, like you were saying, if you have anything that changes your hair, uh, also keep in mind what you're wearing because styles come and go.
That's a good point. Yes.
So it's all of these things. If it looks like it's a few years old, it's definitely time.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You want to look current.
Exactly. So during this whole pandemic, have things changed? Have different opportunities opened up as far as getting visibility in media? And
I think so. One of the things that's most noticeable is that for television, for example, television going on television looks a lot like what you and I are doing right now. We are in our homes
because
on
most of the time they're in their homes.
right, exactly. Like people, they have like they're in studio guests, but they're not in studio. They're on Zoom, and so you can go on television from the comfort of your own home, which is really kind of interesting because and this is probably going to stick around, I think, for a while. There will be in studio guests again, but I think this video stuff has been worked out now, video guests. And the interesting thing is, my clients who have like offices or like locations or different things, like you can put your branding around you, right? So you can
Mhm.
have like say for example, if I had the name of my company back here, or my books, I could have my books back here, or like you can you can show people kind of like where you work, which is kind of interesting and intimate.
Mhm.
So there's different opportunities there as well for your own personal brand to be showcased on television. So I think that's one of the most interesting things that has happened through the pandemic. And then also everyone understands Zoom and other kind of technologies now. So the fact that we can be our own media channels has been the case for quite a while, but I think people are more comfortable with it now. So there's the media that you go out there and earn, like television, or being have a feature in a magazine, or being quoted or something like that. And then there's the media that you own, which could be your podcasts, your blogs, your website, those things that you own. So I think people are doing more in terms of their owned media right now.
So now that we have it, whatever the bit of media is, whether it be a podcast or we have an article or anything, what is the best things to do with it?
Oh, yes. Okay. This is a great question because getting the media coverage is kind of like step one.
Mhm.
And then it's like, how do you leverage it? Because the leveraging of it is where some of the juice comes in. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to leverage your media. So first of all, like you could start even before you get your media. So say, for example, I'm coming on your podcast. Like I could go on and I could say, hey, I'm being interviewed on, this podcast. Like, what do you think? What would you like me to talk about? That kind of thing. So there's some things that you can do beforehand. And then there's lots of things that you can do afterwards. Of course, post the podcast or the TV show or the article on your social media outlets, all your social media outlets, thanking the producer or thanking the podcast host or whoever, outwardly. So you do that. You also put the links on your website, the logos, you're as seen. And like that is really important because people imagine you're going to invest in something and you look at website one versus website two. Website two has a bunch of media coverage that there's just something that you trust them because there's a commitment to their art, there's a commitment to their craft that is showcased there that website number one doesn't necessarily have. So having this on your website is really important. Asking friends and colleagues to share your media coverage is also important. And you can't ask everyone all the time, but if you have like one or two confidants that you each are sharing each other's stuff, that's really, especially when you have a similar audience, you're adding more value actually to
Mhm.
your audience by doing that. Um, Certainly you can update your bio. You can update a sizzle reel. Gosh, I mean, there's so I have a whole article on like how to leverage your publicity, because once you have publicity, you have it forever. In your next pitches, you might want to say, here's my most recent, quote, here's my most recent podcast, that kind of thing. You keep using it over and over. When you have somebody who's considering hiring you, you could send them to say, you might be interested in seeing this particular, thing that you did, like, because, every media coverage is a little bit different. You get a different feature on different things. So if they're interested in one particular service that you offer, lead them to that particular media coverage. And, it's just, you can use it forever.
I saw, what you're saying kind of reminded me of it. I saw on your site that you work best with Trailblazers. So what does that mean to be blazing our own trail? And what does that mean to you?
To me, a trailblazer is someone who has a path to pave, right? They have a vision. They know what they're in business for. It doesn't mean you're out there solving the world's biggest, hugest problems. It could be that you want to, like one of my clients, I've been working with her for over a decade. She came to me, just a quick story. I call her my esthetician with a dream. She's an esthetician. She's working in a salon loft, like one room. And she said, I really want to have multiple spas, multiple states. I want to have my own makeup line. I want to have my own skincare line, like big vision. Well, she has that today. And so her vision and her path to pave has changed because she got all that. So she's been on a different path for the last few years of blazing a new trail. And that is she opened a spa where she is an academy where she is now training estheticians across the country because she wants to up-level the whole entire industry. So a path to pave, just a vision of what you want to have happen. And then kind of like this up-leveling idea. And then the attitude of, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make it happen by taking the next baby step and then the next baby step and then the next baby step. And certainly understanding that there are going to be bumps in the road. This doesn't mean that there aren't bumps in the road. I think everyone understands that. But when the bumps come, you can get back to your foundation of, why is this important to me? What is my vision? What is my path? And then you can just get back on track and then keep going.
I hear two things in that. One thing that I hear is courage.
Yes.
And the other thing that I hear is we don't have to be reinventing the wheel, so to speak. I mean, there are other estheticians out there. So in order to be blazing a trail, it really just needs to be our own trail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's not a lot out there that's like brand new. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how do you want to show up? Like, what are you working toward? What's your vision? And then what happens is, even in your industry, you can find people who might look like they would be competition, but they could really be just, support people. They could become your best business buddies and colleagues as you are both working to blaze your own trails. It just starts to open up doors. It's very expansive. Like, people that I work with, they tend to think expansively, like, and inclusively, like, how can we all do this together? And they're really locked into their vision and their mission, and they're really moving forward in those ways. And it does take courage because, like I said, it comes with bumps in the road.
Yeah. In that, I also hear an abundance mindset, which is a whole nother show.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about your Facebook group.
Okay, so my Facebook group is it's called the Visibility Collaborative, and in this group, we talk about just how to make a name for yourself. Yes, it's media coverage, but it's also just how to make a name for yourself. And I really wanted to create a place where we could just have just genuine talks, and people are meeting each other on here from all over. It's a relatively small group right now, but people are buying things from each other, and it's turning out to be exactly what I want, which is a nice, collaborative group of people all working toward a similar goal in their own industries and interested in seeing, because I think it's always interesting to say, like, this is not my industry, but how are you doing this? This is not my industry, but how are you doing this? Mm-hmm. There are lessons there to learn. So it's a really fun place.
Love that. I might have to go over there and check it out myself.
Go check it out. Yes. The Visibility Collaborative. Yes. Come check it out.
So with that, just 4 final questions for you. First of all, what is the best piece of advice you're ever given?
Best piece of advice. Okay. So I think for me, the best piece of advice was not necessarily words that were given to me. It was just how my parents showed up in the world. They're very generous people, and they were just always opening our house to people in need as I was growing up. And so for me, that advice was just about kindness and being kind, not for accolades, just be kind, just be kind. Like this isn't about being nice. I think there's a difference between being nice and being kind. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So being kind comes from a place of confidence and well-intentioned, whereas kindness there's a little bit of need for validation there, mm-hmm. But it's a little bit more pleasing energy. But I think the advice for me was just, be kind to others.
Share with us one thing on your bucket list.
Okay, so something that it's been really resonating with me recently, and I think this is because of the pandemic, is I really want to go to one of these fancy schmancy like wellness spas for like a week and just chill out and have somebody like make my food and let me sleep in and, get up and take a yoga class and, like just kind of like walk around a beautiful place, like just kind of like one of those like takes you to kind of up levels your own well-being. That would be something on my bucket list.
Yeah. The only thing about that sounds dangerous to me is I would probably want to live at the spa.
I know. I'm not coming home.
So when the toy companies finally get around to making an action figure of you, what 2 accessories will it come with?
So this is such a great question. Okay. So I think for me, it would be a playbill, like a musical playbill, because I love musical theater. So I think a playbill, and then can my family be an accessory? Can I?
Sure.
Okay. Because I was like, maybe a water bottle. I drink a lot of water, but probably my family over water. I don't know.
And the last thing, how do people find you?
I would say go check out the Facebook page, go to the Visibility Collaborative on Facebook, just answer the questions, and that would be a great place for us to connect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. So great to talk with you.
Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Please comment, like, or share this episode, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more information on how I can help you create your iconic image, visit marlanasemenza.com.